My name is Marilyn. I've never done this before, except to the family. Okay.
Welcome, Marilyn.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I grew up in Minnesota and in a Norwegian family and a very Lutheran family, and there was never any raising of your voice, and there was never anything spicy. If a voice was raised, you head for the hills. I married an Italian from the East Coast, and it was a culture shock when we went to Shamokin, Pennsylvania, which is in the coal regions of Pennsylvania. And the first time I met his parents, now my family are all Vikings. I'm the little one. They're all up here. Tom says when we go to Minnesota, it's the land of white hair, white food, and giants, because that's what we are. His mom and dad came about up to here on me, and they barked like little chihuahuas. And he would always instigate for them, you know, to go. And we lived in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and his parents lived in the coal regions, and his father had just had cataract surgery. So Tom drove to Shamokin. He picked up his parents, and he drove them to Gettysburg to stay with us. And they would come to the house, and because I cooked white food, potatoes, fish, you know, any white food, cottage cheese, whatever. Butter's the color on the table. Okay, so they would bring their big stock pots to make the sauce, and they would bring their own pork and their own Purdue chicken and everything to cook in my kitchen because they weren't going to eat white food. So they have this stuff, and while they're sitting there in our family room and they're rocking away and they're looking at their watches, and they bring in all the little medicines that Bess needed for his cataract in this brown paper lunch bag. And it sits on the kitchen counter. And then they're looking at, yep, it's time for the medicine. So, and they're all bent over from osteoporosis. They worked really, really hard their whole lives in a pizza restaurant, an Italian restaurant that his family still owns. And they rolled out the dough with their hands, you know. And so, anyway, they were all bent over, so they get up, and his mom had long nails, cursed like a sailor, and she's like yelling at him to come up and get his eye drops. So they walk into our breakfast room, and they sit down, and so here's Bess sitting here. We'll use Tom. And Loretta, his lovely wife, stands over him, and she gets her brown paper bag, and she gets the medicine out, and she takes her daggers. And she's like this. And Bess, being the gentleman that he was, he says, "Oh, please forgive me. Jesus Christ, Loretta, what the hell do you think you're trying to do? Tear my goddamn eye out." I've got children there, and they're like 8 and 12. And I said, "Please don't curse in front of my children." You know, I was kind of surprised. And so what does she do? She just looks at him and says, "Shut the hell up, Bess. If I wasn't here, who the hell would do this for you?" And he says, "Well, I'd find some old bag." And she says, "And you know plenty of them too, don't you?" She said, "Oh my God." He was in the living room. He ran to the other room, dying. I ran into our Victoria room, and I was biting a pillow. I was laughing so hard. I thought, this isn't like my mom's house. This isn't like my mom's house, you know, to go there to do that. One of the other things we did is every time we went up, like once a month, to go visit them, he slept upstairs in the attic, and she slept in the downstairs bedroom. And Tom would always egg his mom on, "Say goodnight, sweetie." And so no, I'm not going to say that. "Say goodnight, sweetie." He'd egg her on. So she would say to him, "Goodnight, sweetie." And his response, very delicate Italian, "Sweetie, your ass." He'd say. Now, yeah, so, and they celebrated 54 years together. So I'm like, "Oh, Tom, didn't you ever do a 50th anniversary?" No, he said he never did. And his dad is sitting there, 54 years. "I'm married to the wrong woman," he said. She says, 54 years, they ought to give me a medal for being married to you. And he says, "Give you a medal? They better make me a saint," he said. Oh my God. So then Bess died, okay? He had a heart attack, he died. We're at the funeral. Everybody goes out. Big Italian funeral. We're all piling out of the room. We're next to Les. His mother is there with his youngest brother. And so the funeral director asked, "Would you like to cover him up?" Oh, so she goes over and she's looking at him because they had a fight about what suit he was going to wear when he was laid out. He wanted an old suit and she wanted to buy him a new one. So anyway, she's like this, patting his shoulder, and she takes the blanket. She says, well, good night, sweetie. Oh, well, you know, our eyes started to leak and we're crying and whatever, and I was just waiting for him, just waiting for him. But they closed it and it never came open, and so whenever he gets to missing his family, I have to tell him those couple stories because then it gets him laughing and then we remember. But when we go to Minnesota, it's pretty calm in comparison.